So, hi guys, in this book Hetty Feather, now we will read chapter 14, but let's review chapter 13 a little bit. So, in chapter 13, it's the terrible winter that has this horrible disease called influenza. And Hetty and with her special friend had that disease, but they soon recovered. But there's one sad news that Sal, Hetty's brother, and Sarah, Hetty's friend, all goes up to heaven because of this terrible influenza. So that's the end of chapter 13. In chapter 14 is another new world. In Christmas, it's Christmas in winter. The 25th of December is Christmas. So in chapter 14, it's about Christmas, how the Foundling Hospital and Hetty celebrate Christmas that year. Let's get started. 14. Christmas was coming, but I didn't know whether to get excited. I asked Harriet how it was celebrated at the hospital. Christmas is rather like a special Sunday, she said, which depressed me utterly. I hated the long, cold hours in chapel. I started to hate Sunday dinner too. I still simpered so that the ladies and gentlemen would give me sweets, but the big girls were wise to me now, and stole them all from me the moment I stepped outside the dining room. I tried looking to Harriet for protection, but she had developed a ridiculous passion for one of the younger gentlemen visitors and hung back, blushing and smiling, frequently the very last foundling out of the dining room. I gotta drink some water before I read. He wore a gold-tied pin in the shape of a pea, so Harriet spent entire hours wondering if he was Philip or Peter or a pal. I think I heard his wife calling him Peregrine. I fibbed, making up the silliest name I could think of. Nonsense, Hetty. And that lady isn't his wife. She's far too old. Years older than him. She might even be his mother. I thought I'd rather think she is his older spinster sister. She was a very plain, pale, serious-seeming lady who always wore plain coral gray dresses with no adornments, so perhaps Harriet was right. She certainly seemed convinced he was fancy-free and conducting a full-scale flirtation with her, though as far as I could see, he didn't as much as glance in her direction, but she was happy to dream. With all the ladies and gentlemen gawp at us when we eat our Christmas dinner too, I said. Oh yes, said Harriet happily, and they will be in the chapel for the Christmas service with the choir and the tableau vivant. What's a tableau vivant? I asked. Oh, it's very pretty. A representation of the Nativity. I hope each year that I might get picked as Mary. I would so love to play the Virgin Mother in all her holiness with everyone gazing, especially him. I knew all about nativity every Christmas time while Mother hung up a picture of baby Jesus in a manger with all his visitors adoring him. So, is this tableau vivant like a play? There are no words, Hetty, and you have to keep very still. It's like a living picture. This wasn't such good news. It didn't sound as if anything happened. I longed for a drama, angels proclaiming at the top of their voices, innkeepers turning away the holly couple, wise men processing with their exotic gift. How do we know who is who if no one moves or says anything? I said. Don't be silly. They wear a special costume. Mary has a beautiful dress of brilliant blue and a long white veil, said Harriet. sighing wistfully. Imagine. Oh, I could imagine. I suddenly understood. Harriet has been wearing an ugly brown dress and a ridiculous cap since she was 5 years old. I do hope you get to be Mary, I said, or if not, perhaps I could be Mary. My heart beat fast at the thought. I pictured myself in a blue dress, felt the soft, bright silk on my arms, the long veil brushing past my shoulders. "Oh, Hetty," said Harriet, and I saw she was trying not to laugh. "You are too little, and you have red hair." I was rather put out by this. Harriet was meant to be my friend. I could stand on a box, and my hair wouldn't show much underneath my veil, I said, a little sulkily. However, I had another idea, or as I am really little, perhaps I could be baby Jesus. I could crouch inside a box and be like baby Jesus in a manger. This time, Harriet couldn't help laughing heartily. "You are so comical, Hetty. You couldn't possibly pass as Jesus." They have a real baby, one of the new foundling babes from the nursery. Last year, it cried so loudly that it almost drowned out the singing of the choir. I could do that. I'm very good at crying, I said. "Who chooses the children for the tableau vivant?" "I'm not sure," said Harriet. "Perhaps the matron and the nurses." I had no chance at all if Matron Pig-faced Peter had any say, but dear Nurse Weenie would surely put a good word for me. Or maybe it's the teachers. Aha! Miss Newman was too strict a teacher to have obvious favorites, but we all knew she favored Polly and me because we were the cleverest. Perhaps she would pick both of us. I thought hard about costume. I didn't wish to be a shepherd or a guest at the inn. Their costume would be very commonplace, but the wise men would surely wear fine gowns of velvet and brocade, and if they were kings, they should have golden crowns on their heads. "Oh, Harriet, we could be the 3 wise men," I said. "You could be the big one, and you could be first to bow down to baby Jesus and give him a big present. And then Polly could be the middle-sized wise man and give a middle-sized present. Then I would come last and be a teeny tiny wise man with a very teeny tiny present." Harriet laughed so hard that tears rolled down her cheeks. "It's not Goldilocks and 3 bears, Hetty. You're so funny. And besides, we're girls, so we'll only play the lady parts. The boys always play the wise men." "But that isn't fair." I reckoned it up, counting on my fingers. "There are heaps and heaps of men parts. There are only 2 lady parts, Mary and the innkeeper's wife, unless is an angel a man or a lady." Harriet didn't look sure. "I think an angel can be either," she said. "Then I could be an angel and wear a long white nightgown. Oh, I could have wings, great feathery wings. Do you think I could have wings that really fly?" "Pigs might fly before they let you be an angel, Hetty," said Harriet. "Everyone says how fierce and bad you are, and you fidget so. You could never be part of a tableau vivant where you have to stand still, as still throughout the entire service." "Now stop plaguing me about the tableau vivant. Tell me, did you happen to notice the exquisite cravat my gentleman was wearing this morning?" But I was in a sulk. I did not want to discuss Philip, Peter, Pal, Peregrine. I didn't care if he was choked by his own executive cravat. I just wanted to be in the tableau vivant. I told Polly all about it that night. "We could both be angels, Polly, or perhaps not the big special angel who tells the wise men about Jesus." "Gabriel," said Polly. "Yes, that one, but there are lots of other angels. The hymn says, a host of heavenly angels, and I'm sure a host means a great deal. So we could be small angels, baby ones. Cherubs, said Polly. Yes, cherubs. I brought back the nativity picture at home. They were definitely cherubs at the nativity. They were up at the corners, flying about the stable, and they didn't have any clothes on, just little whips. We would have to wear clothes, Hetty, Polly said firmly. But we weren't chosen to be angels, whips or no whips. Monica was picked to be a small angel. We were astonished. She was such a thin, colorless girl with very little personality. She just echoed everything Sheila said. Sheila seemed equally taken aback, convinced that she would make a far superior angel. She started to eat and torment Monica, but Monica didn't retaliate. She had become irritatingly holly since being chosen. You're making cheeses. Very unhappy, calling me silly names and pinching me, Sheila, she declared. I shall not play with you any more until you say sorry. I'm not a bit sorry, said Sheila, marching off. I'd far sooner play by myself. She stood stamping her feet and glowering in a corner of the playground, while Monica smiled in a maddening saintly way and struck angelic poses. I worked arm in arm with Polly, past Sheila, and felt almost sorry for her. A truly kind child would have invited Sheila to walk with us, but I'm afraid I'm only kind when I want to be. I definitely try to be kind to my real friends. I decided I want to give a Christmas present to Polly, to Harriet, to Nurse Winterson, and to Ida. I did not have any money apart from Jem precious 6 pence, safely hidden inside the knob of my bed head. I did not have an opportunity to go shopping. In any case, I had not been outside the grounds of the hospital since arriving. This meant I had to make my presents. I certainly wasn't a competent needlewoman. Besides, I had no materials, but I was an opportunistic thief. I was sent in disgrace to Matron Peters' room for cheating off the nurses while standing them being seriously scolded. I saw she had a Chinese bowl of dry lavender and rose petals on her little table. This gave me a wonderful idea. I edged nearer and nearer the bowl, my hands behind the back. When Matron Pigface consulted her punishment book to check just how many times I'd been in trouble, I grabbed a big handful of dry flowers and stuffed them up my sleeve. I worry a little when I said my prayers at night. In caves, thieves were straight to hell, so I told God I was very sorry. But it didn't stop me from snatching a prawn from the mending basket the next day, and hanging onto my needle and thread instead of hanging them into Nurse Winterson. After our darning session, I made 4 little lavender sachets with my stolen snippets. I tried to fashion them into a heart, but they were woefully lumpy and lopsided. I was really curious how Hetty will make her a gift. Well, I wanted to seal long, loving messages on each, but I didn't have the skill all the time, so I simply stitched each name. Ida was mercifully short, and Polly was simple enough. I had to write Harriet and every tiny of them. Oh, I see here. This is how Hetty made the gift. I see here is Polly, and here's Ida. Yeah, she made the gift really beautiful indeed. Yeah, very beautiful. But even so, her name has to wind around the edge of her heart. I could not possibly attempt Nurse Winterson in its entirely, and I was fast running out of time. so she had to make do with a hastily stitched N.W. She seemed delighted all the same, and kissed me on the cheek. Harriet kissed me too, and gave me her own presents. She had fashioned me a very little doll out of scraps of wool. She was too small to cuddle close, so was no real substitute for my rag baby. But I was still very grateful and gave Harriet many kisses back. Polly had a present for me too, a pen. She had found a jay's feather in the playground and fashioned the end into a proper quill. I can't figure out how to get any ink, she said a little anxiously. It would spill if I tried to smuggle some of the classroom ink wells. Never mind, Polly. I can write secret story in invisible ink, or perhaps I would prick my finger and write in blood. I thought it would have to be a very short story, but I love my quill pen, and I love my scented heart, said Polly, and we gave each other a fierce hug. Ida gave me a present too. I was rather hoping for one, but I thought it would be some delicious tidbit, maybe another slip of toffee, or little ice cake. Here, Hetty, she whispered at Christmas Eve supper. Don't open it until tomorrow morning. Now, she dropped a little square parcel in my lap. Definitely a quake. I thought, my mouth watering. I hope it would have extra thick icing, and maybe yellow marzipan too, and a surplus of cherries. I was in such a greedy daze of anticipation, I almost forgot I had a present to give Ida too. I fumbled up my sleeve when I hidden it. Are looking for a handkerchief, Hetty? No, where's it gone? I said, gurgling and scrabbling. Ida's present has gone right up my sleeve and down inside my dress. I tapped my front. There it was, a little lump above my own real heart. I edged it up towards the neck of my dress. Is it moving? Oh, dear Lord, have you got a mouse down your dress? Ida squealed, backing away from me. No, silly Ida, it's your present. You have a Christmas present for me, said Ida. Yes, I said, peering round to make sure we weren't being observed. I strapped down my dress. I haven't got any fancy paper to grab it with. So you will see what it is right this instant. Perhaps you can grab it up yourself and try to forget what it is. And then you can open it on Christmas Day. It will come as a splendid surprise. Ah, I fished the lavender heart right out in the open. It had got squashed out of its shape during its journey up and down my frock, and my stitches seemed very big and uneven. I offered it shyly, hoping Ida wouldn't laugh at my effort. Ida didn't laugh. She cried. She stared at the crumpled heart in her hand, and tears welled in her eyes, spilling down her cheeks. Oh, Ida, don't cry. I'm sorry it's such a small and shabby present. I would try harder next year, I said earnestly. It's a wonderful present. So kind of you, Hetty. Oh, bless you, child, Ida mumbled, and then hurried away to the kitchen, forgetting her serving tray in her haste. Sheila glared at me. What have you done to make Ida cry, Hetty Feather? I have made her happy, I said stoutly, though I wasn't quite sure if this was true. I couldn't wait till Christmas morning to open my present from Ida. I got up in the middle of the night, clutching my precious small parcel. I tiptoed the length of the dormitory to the washroom. I knew the nurses kept a candle and matches in case a child was taken poorly in the night. I took the candle into a corner and lit it with a match. Then I sat down cross-legged and opened my parcel. It wasn't a cake. It wasn't anything to eat at all. It was a tiny book, bound in red, with gilt lettering. The Story of Thumbelina. I opened it up with trembling fingers. The story was about a very, very small girl called Thumbelina, and there were colored illustrations. I saw Thumbelina with pink cheeks and very yellow hair, tucked up neatly in a brown walnut shell bed. I stroked her hair and patted her tiny quilt, and then read the first few pages, though I had to squint in the candlelight, and it was fearfully cold in the dank washroom. Dear Ida, she had chosen the smallest book she could find, so I could hide it easily about my person. Thumbelina was even smaller than me, yet she was the heroine of her fairy tale, and when I peeked at the ending, I saw she lived happily ever after. I was frozen solid when I eventually stole back to bed, but growing inside, warmed by Ida's loving generosity. At breakfast, I waited until she came to serve us our porridge, and then grabbed hold of her hand tightly. "Thank you, Ida," I said passionately. "I do love you so." The other girls giggled, thinking I was simply thanking Ida for my porridge, but Ida understood. She gave my bowlful an extra sprinkling of brown sugar and patted my shoulder, smiling at me while I marched off to chapel feeling very happy. For once, I sat through the long service without fidgeting, because I had two wondrous nativity tableaux vibrant to gaze at. The participant children kept still as statues. Even the newborn babe in the cardboard manger slept peacefully throughout. Mary was one of the big girls in Harriet's class, thin and dark and a little gawky, but strangely graceful now. She knelt before the baby, hands clasped in awe, her beautiful bright blue dress draped decorously about her. Joseph was one of the big lads, tall as a man, splendid in his orange striped robe. The shepherds were ranging artistically on the left, some standing, some kneeling. There was even a stuffed sheep, and the smallest shepherd clutched a toy lamb. Best of all, there were the angels, an entire flock of them, standing aloft upon the stable roof. And I loved the angel. You will never guess the little angel who it was. My own little brother, suspended in mid-air, his arms gesturing gracefully, his toes pointed, dancing down from heaven. "It's Gideon," I whispered proudly to Polly. "My brother Gideon." We had no official present as much, but when we lifted our mug to drink, we discovered a brand new polished penny. I hid mine later on top of Yem's silver 6 pence. I went to sleep that night with Polly's bed under my pillow, Harriet's doll tucked in beside me, and my tiny book clutched to my chest. So that is the end of Hetty Christmas. Next time will be Hetty's greatest punishment ever. Bye.